today we are experimenting. What are we experimenting with? Fiberglass and thermoplastic. So while this is a first-time experiment with trying to create this material in the shape of a mold, I do have a little bit of a proof of concept. So we're not completely in the dark here. I know this works to an extent.
Not to mention the auto industry's been combining thermoplastic and fiberglass for decades. The only difference here is I'm trying to bring it to the DIY community, so you don't need a $10,000 mold to make use of this cool technology.
Let me show you. It all started with this thing. You might recognize it. It is a t-shirt press. Check it out. So when I was printing the custom ITB intake system for the Miata race car, I wasted a $100 roll of carbon fiber nylon filament on this thing, which I thought was going to be the final intake manifold print for the car, for the system. So when that happened, I had to buy a new roll of filament to do the job. And I was going to buy another roll of carbon fiber nylon, but instead I saw carbon fiber polypropylene available, and it had the material properties that I needed, and it was a little bit less. It was actually on sale. It was a lot less than the carbon fiber nylon. So I sprung for that, and boy, that was a whirlwind. It's such a love-hate relationship with polypropylene because it's an awesome material. I'm not going to get into all the things I love about it, but man, it is a nightmare to try to print with. It won't stick to the bed. Well, it will stick to the bed, but if it sticks to the bed, it'll lift the whole bed up because the only bed materials that are capable of having polypropylene stick to them are polypropylene, and polypropylene shrinks a lot when the temperature changes. So I needed to make my own build plate with fiberglass in the polypropylene so that it would have some more strength and it wouldn't warp so much when I was trying to print on top of it. So that's what I did. I got some fiberglass weave that you would normally find at an auto parts store or Amazon, anything like that. And also some of this stuff. You might recognize it. It might even be under the chair that you're sitting on right now. This is 100% polypropylene fabric, and they use it on the bottom of furniture. They use it in like flower beds and stuff to keep the moisture in the soil, and it's super cheap and it's super thin, so it's easy to melt into other things such as glass. So I used my nifty little t-shirt build plate maker right here. I went glass or plastic, glass, plastic, smushed her on down, and what came out was a nice build plate, obviously with a lot more layers than I demonstrated here, but this is less than a 1/16 thick, which I was actually trying to make it a little thicker, but I ran out of material. And it's quite strong. It was good enough. It still warped a lot, but it was good enough for me to make the intake manifold that I put on the car after a lot of finish work. And it's kind of funny, when you peel the part off, it actually takes the first layer of plastic off of the build plate. So it damages it, but it's actually repairable because all you have to do is put it in your trusty little t-shirt build plate maker over here and put another layer of plastic down, melt it in, and you got a nice brand new build plate again. So we know it works. We know it has the capability of being strong, but we don't know how easy it is to form into a mold. So it's what we're both going to find out right now. All right, so we have our 3D printed mold that's been prepped and painted. It doesn't have a really good surface finish, but we're not too concerned about the way that the process pulls the detail away from the mold too much. At this stage, we just want to know how easy it is to work with the material and if the part is capable of coming out strong. That's all we want to know. This is our soap mold release agent, good old Kirkland signature brand there. We have our plaster of Paris, which should easily be able to withstand the temperature that this polypropylene melts at. So we'll be able to make our mold with this, warm it up, and hopefully once this sheet of plastic goes down, it'll sort of just melt into place, and then we can layer by layer build up our part and use our little glass spoons to get in the corners and smooth it all out. We have both fiberglass, get out of there, dude. We have both fiberglass sheet and fiberglass that's chopped. I'm not sure if we'll have enough time to use this material on the video today, but we'll definitely be doing a variety of these based on the success of this experiment. So for today, what we're going to be using is this mat, which It's quite a lot thicker than I wanted it to be. It's gonna need a lot of sheets of plastic per sheet of glass. Little bit of an oversight on my part, but what we need to do right now is weigh everything and determine how many sheets of plastic we're gonna use for 1 sheet of fiberglass, and determine what kind of ratio we're going to use in the mold as well. All right, we got our scale set up, a trusty little refrigeration charge scale from the Sub-Zero repair days. And let's first see how much 1 sheet of glass weighs. Sorry guys, I'm an American, but I gotta measure in grams right now just because it's a little bit more discreet, but I can't say I feel good about it. All right, 32 grams on the glass. How many sheets of plastic does it take to weigh 32 grams? 5. 22, it's 8 sheets. 34, let's take one off and see what that weighs. 30, okay, 28, 30. We're gonna use 8, so it'll be close to 50-50, slightly more plastic. All right. That's good. It's our little mold going on there. Let's just, I've never made a mold before too, so this is, see how it goes. Get some soap in there. Smear it around. Ooh, this is fun. This is, yeah. Smearing soap on a mold, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I would recommend. Even if you guys don't have a mold to make, just get some soap and like smear it on something. That's sensational. So now that this is thoroughly coated, gonna go ahead and wash my hands, wait for that to dry, and start mixing some powdery stuff. How long does soap take to dry? About 5.5 video seconds. That's how long. All right, we got all our junk ready to roll. Now we need some kind of container to mix this thing in. Water, gallon, jug of, man, can I even talk? Gallon jug of water. I think this will be fantastic. I'm gonna cut it while retaining use of the handle. There we go, that's where I wanted it to cut. Yeah. Beautiful. What do you think of that? Clean cold water, 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Oh, we need a stir. A stirrer. Let's find one. All right, we got our stirrer, got our white powdery stuff, and I should get like a separate container of water so I could mix it all right here. Well, see, I don't think this water's 40 or 50 degrees is the problem. Seems like maybe 90, maybe 100 degrees. All right, wait, what's the ratio? Sets hard in 20 minutes. 2 parts plaster to 1 part cold water. I don't know, I'm just gonna wing it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Can you breathe this stuff? All right, here we go. There's still like a couple little chunks in there. All right, here goes the pour. Is this too thick? Ooh, it's like whipped cream. That's cool. Yeah, if you've done plaster before, like feel free to make fun of me because I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, we'll let it set up and hope we're gonna be all good. That's done. Okay, it has been, I don't know, it's been like an hour. So this should be well and dry. It says it sets up in 30 minutes. And all the crumblings from the inside of the jug seem like they're fully cured. So we're gonna try to pop this out of the mold and hope it doesn't break, because I'd be super bummed if it did. I don't have any more plaster left. See if we can get this off in one piece. Then it's time to heat it up and make a tiny little hood guy. Here we go. Should I flip it over or should I break the edges? I think I'm gonna break the edges. Yeah, there we go. Let's just break the plastic off of here. There we go. Got some layer separation on the print. Perfect. Oh yeah. Let's see how this looks. It doesn't have a great surface finish, but it's not broken. So we can use this. It'll work. Yeah, it's kind of... Well, the soap released it really well, but I think some remnants of the soap got left behind, and that's what gave us a funky finish. Let's put this thing on the frickin' stove and see if we can get it to 400 degrees. Start laying some plastic inside of it. It's cracked. Heated it up too fast. I knew it was gonna happen too. It wasn't completely cured. There was still moisture in there that turned to steam when I heated it up too fast and popped up through the mold. It didn't crack all the way through though, so we're still in good shape. Problem I'm dealing with right now is the corners don't want to heat up. Not a surprise there either because the burner's a circle, the mold is a square. You do the math. I wasn't too good in geometry, but I know that circles don't have corners. So what I've done is I built up the edges because not only is there no direct heat under the corners, but the corners are also a lot thicker than the center too. So it's having a hard time moving heat out. The middle's almost 300 and the corners aren't even, they're like 110. So what I'm gonna do is add even more foil. I have the corners built up to bring the center away, and then hopefully the aluminum can conduct heat a little bit better than the air that's sitting underneath the center of the mold, but it's still not doing the job. So I'm gonna move this, add even more aluminum, and hopefully I can turn the heat up because right now it's, you know, barely sitting below halfway. So let me move this thing. There's still a lot of heat, still a lot of steam trapped under this thing too. So as you can see, this thing is steaming when you pick it up. So I should probably put it in the oven and let it bake all the way through and get it super dry. That way I don't have to worry about how fast I crank the heat up on it, but yeah, I don't got no time for that. All right, let's let this heat up for a while. I think I can probably add another click of temperature, and we'll come back to it when it's warm and start laying some sheets on it. All right, I walked away for like 2 minutes, and yeah, the middle's 500 and it's smoking. So, and I only went up from 4 to 5 on the gauge here. So I turned it back to 2. I'm not gonna touch it. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. It hasn't cracked, which is good. So we're just gonna let that sit there. Hopefully the heat will work its way out, and I'll come back when it's not smoking, and hopefully we can throw some plastic sheets on there. All right, I didn't want to have to use this because it's gonna be tedious, but hopefully when I heat up the outside surface with this, hopefully it'll hold its heat a little bit and be able to maintain it with a little bit that's coming from the center. So let's give this a shot. Wow, I think it just has way too much water still in it. 'Cause right now I got it all the way up to 380. Boom, down to 280 already. It loses like 5 degrees a second as soon as you take the heat away. So we need to put this in the oven. It's got to bake for a while to let all that moisture out. Hopefully it doesn't crack anymore because this crack opened up a little bit. It's gone to the center and it's sort of branched out. So hopefully it's still all in one piece when we take it out of the oven. But that's what has to happen. So let me set it on the rack with nothing underneath it because I'm sure once I lift this up, I'll show you right now. Once I lift this up, there's probably a ton of steam trapped underneath. And that's why it's cooling off so fast. It's not able to retain that heat. Look at that. Freaking steamy McGee over here. So, yeah, let's put it in the oven. We won't crank it all the way up. We'll put it in. It's still holding together pretty well. It has some strength to it. We'll leave it in there at, I don't know, let's say 250. All right, we're gonna have to let that go for a while. Probably eat some dinner since the stove is no longer occupied. And we'll be back at it. Okay, a day has passed. This thing was in the oven for about an hour yesterday at 250, so that dried it out pretty thoroughly. There wasn't a whole lot of steam coming out anymore after that. I've been slowly warming it up throughout the morning, and the crack is definitely bigger. I think the thing shrunk as the water content left, as it finished its curing process. So I'm hoping it doesn't break into two pieces when I take it out and move it onto our stovetop, which I'm gonna turn on right now. Leave it at 3.5. Polypropylene melts at about 320 degrees. We have the mold set to 400. Hopefully the burner is able to maintain that temperature. And we're gonna start laying some plastic down. Let's see what happens. Let's go. So we already know, dang, is that smoke? I think it's the oil I soaked it in. We already know we have to improve our mold making and also our heating process because, oh yeah, it might break when I pick it up. Let's see what happens here. We just need a proof of concept. Alrighty. Oh crap. The foil's moving around. Okay. Alright, I think we're okay. Let's lay this down, see what happens. Here we go. Is it gonna melt? Oh, it's shrinking. It looks crazy. Yeah, it's not it's not melting very uniform. It is not melting very uniform. Let me put 2 down at once and see if hopefully we can get a little bit of uniform melting going on. The heat gun wouldn't be good in this situation. I've already tried when I was making the build plate. And the air that's coming out of the heat gun, it blows the sheet of fabric around too much and doesn't let it melt uniform that way either. So it's not melting as quick as I thought it was going to. Well, that's not working. It's not hot enough. It might need the pressure too. It worked so well on that t-shirt press. I think because of the constant pressure that was being applied to it, it melted really uniform. This is not melting uniform at all. It's not really even melting. It's kind of sticking too. Yeah, see, it's not really melting at all. Smoky. We're past the melting point of the plastic in a few places, so it's producing smoke, and that's probably not great to breathe. Polypropylene is non-toxic, but I wouldn't recommend burning it and inhaling the smoke. I had a little bit of success once I put all 4 sheets of plastic down, put the fiberglass on top of it, and then I started applying heat with the heat gun. Because the fiberglass was in the way, it was limiting the turbulence that the air was producing coming out of the heat gun. And it started melting. It started creating a little bit of a form, but I still had an issue with the plastic not melting in a uniform way. So it kind of globs up and clumps and rolls into different directions. So there's no uniformity here in the fiberglass itself. So I'm going to approach this a different way. I'm going to let this cool off so I could peel it off in one piece and reset. And what I think might produce a better result is if we pre-fabricate the sheets with the plastic and fiberglass together in the t-shirt press. Since this is too thick, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna use the chopped fiberglass with maybe 4 sheets of this plastic and melt all that together. That'll be uniform and still thin. I'll put those on layer by layer. And then hopefully as I apply heat to it, it'll sort of, since it's a homogeneous sheet of plastic rather than a fabric with like perforations in it, hopefully it'll deflect and start to warp and then sink into all the corners as more and more heat is applied to it. So I'm gonna go out there, make some prefabricated sheets and see if that works. Let's do it. Okay, this thing takes quite a while to warm up. Generally with these, you only need this to get hot because that's what pushes the pattern into the shirt that you're printing on. But in our case, we need this to be nice and hot too, so I'll normally close it. Let's see where it's set to, 120 seconds. Okay, so I'll let it get hot and then I'll close it to try to get some heat into this aluminum plate. Ooh, that reminds me. It likes to stick to this. It's better if I put a piece of glass down. Be right back. All right, so while that's warming up, we'll have time to clean this glass off and determine how much of this we need for each sheet of that. So let's remind ourselves what 2 sheets of this weighs. 8 grams. What does 8 grams of this look like? That's not even 1. 10. That says 8. We'll go with it. So now, I'll just keep measuring it each time. That way I get the same amount. So, let's say that's up to 212. Get some heat in the aluminum, clean this up, and I will see you once this is all ready to go. And I'll show you what it's like when we slap the plastic in there and see if a nice sheet comes out. I've never used the chopped glass in this machine, so it's probably going to be difficult to try to arrange this in a uniformly chaotic way. So that'll be interesting. Okay, our glass is possibly melting our bucket. This thing's ready to go. There's 1. All right, now, oh, I didn't think that through, did I? Let's put this here. Okay. Sprinkle that on there. It's not very much, is it? Okay. How do I disperse this evenly? This is not a simple task, is it? Okay, that is not uniform at all, but we're going to send it just to see what happens. Put our glass back on top. Loosen this a little bit because it's a little too tight. And, whoa, hey, let's slide that in. Okay. See what happens. I think what I need to do, let me weigh 8 more grams out. Da 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 da. Okay. After I weigh the toe or chopped fiberglass, I think I need to go in there and break all these up because they're kind of clumped together. I think I need to break them into like smaller fibers. There's 8. Before I spread it out, because if you can see, they're kind of clumped. You have like clumps of very tiny fibers. So I think I need to go in there and break them all up like this so that when I put them on the sheet, there's more of them to spread around. So while that's going, I'll do this. There we go. I think this next one will be better. I'm gonna do 1 more of these with the toe. See if I can get it distributed a little more evenly. And then after that, I'm gonna try one with the sheet. It's gonna be a lot thicker, but we should at least try it out while this thing's hot, because the uniformity might be a problem with this process. All right. How's this one gonna look? Melted? There's not enough plastic. It's not enough plastic. It's melting all crazy. Ay, ay, ay. It looks terrible under there. Let's see what we have here. Oh, yeah, hot mess. That's fantastic. Okay. You know what? It didn't get hot enough on the aluminum. So let me wipe this and get some more heat in the aluminum. This probably would have looked better if I left it on there longer, but there's clearly not enough plastic in the mix. So this chopped fiberglass stuff, it's not going to be the winning solution. Maybe for a machine, but certainly not for me. Eesh. Okay. Once that's warm, I'm going to do 4 sheets of plastic, 1 sheet of the glass mat, another 4 sheets of plastic. That should be enough for it to fully melt in. It's going to be a lot thicker than I want it to be, but in the future we'll get some glass mat that's thinner than this. I thought this was the thinnest one you could get when I ordered it, but that can't be true. There's got to be thinner stuff. I'll get thinner glass and we'll go at this again, see if we can improve the result with a better mold as well. That's the painful thing about working with polypropylene, is if there's like a little bit of residue left over after you're done, it's like completely impervious to chemicals. So you can't clean it off with acetone or soap and water, acid, like nothing eats the stuff. It just stays on there forever. You have to melt it off, which is great. It's really tough stuff as it comes to chemical susceptibility, but makes it really hard to clean. All right. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's fully melted. So we're gonna go ahead and let this cool off. And once that's cold, we can remove it from the plate. We'll head back inside and see if it melts into the mold.
I'm really pleased with the way the molten plastic wet out and melted into the fibers in this mat, because when I was working with the fiberglass weave to make the build plate, all those fibers were wound tightly together and it was hard for that plastic to work its way in between them. So it looks like this is going to work pretty well.
All right, we got our sheets made up. Very time-consuming process. You have to let the t-shirt press warm up a lot before you can melt the plastic. Then you have to let it completely cool down so you can separate it without having a oozy mess. So we have 3 sheets. We were surprised by some pretty good news. When this was all assembled together, it ended up being a lot thinner than I thought it was going to be. So just one of these sheets is 25 thousandths. So we're going to put 3 of them together, and that'll give us 75 thousandths of thickness, which should be enough to demonstrate its ability to keep its shape when we put some force on it. I reduced the amount of plastic sheets per fiberglass sheet from 8 to 6, and after doing that I weighed it again, and come to find out maybe the other weight measurement wasn't very accurate, because with 6 sheets of plastic and 1 sheet of fiberglass we have an exact 50% ratio between the two. So this has been on for a little while. It's warming up. Had to put foil down all over the mold because of the crack, and then also when the plastic cooled down and I tried to remove it from our failed attempt earlier, it pulled pieces of the plaster off, and I didn't want to have to worry about damaging the part once it cooled off. So it's not pretty, but that's okay. We just need a proof of concept for today, and that'll be a super big win. We've already learned a lot, and I mean, this is a proof of concept in itself. So we're on the right track. If we can get it to form into something, we're gonna be doing super good. So this is a heat gun assembly technique. So I'm just gonna lay this in there. They kind of curled up a bunch trying to peel them off of the glass, so they don't have the flattest shape, but here we go. This is actually looking pretty good. I'm gonna try to get a close-up of this. All right, the first layer has been melted down, not perfectly. There's a couple things that are happening. So the aluminum is providing a little bit of spring back, which isn't good. It's not letting it lay down all the way. Also, I think there's an interference happening with the glue that's in the fiberglass mat as well. There's glue that holds all the fibers together that's designed to dissolve in the epoxy resin that you use to lay it up. There's a chemical reaction that takes place when you put the resin on it, and it breaks down that glue and allows the fibers to move around and conform to the contours of the piece or the mold that you're making. It doesn't feel like the glass fibers are moving around very well. They're kind of trying to fold back, and I don't think it's all the aluminum that's creating that to happen. I also noticed when I made these, they were sticking to the glass, which it never did before. When I made the build plate with the fiberglass weave that doesn't have any glue in it and the pure polypropylene sheets, it did not stick to the glass at all. It popped right off. And this thing, that's why they're so curled. I had to scrape at it a bunch with the putty knife, and it even left residue behind on the glass. So I think that glue is not breaking down. I'm gonna lay the second one down right on top and hope that it melts into this first layer, and we'll go from there. I think that's as good as I can get it by hand. So let's cool this thing off and see what it looks like cool. So a few months ago, I had a really big revelation. And in that moment, I decided that I want to share all of my closely held ideas with you guys on YouTube rather than build individual businesses around them. Because I just have too many ideas for one person to pursue in a single lifetime, and I think everybody can benefit from them. So this project today is going to be the first open source development process on the channel, with many more to come. So if you're an engineer or a mechanic and you want to offer your time and energy to the cause, I'm putting my contact details down in the video description below, so get in touch with me. And if you're just a casual observer that's into science and cars, there's a membership promo video that you can watch if you click the join button down below. And that'll give you an opportunity to support us financially as we put our good ideas and the bad ideas through the development process, so that hopefully all of us can benefit from the knowledge that we gain along the way. So with that, let's see how this part came out. Well, it's not pretty, but it's pretty strong, and it feels kind of light. Let's weigh it. Come in at 172 grams. And we determined that the thickness should be 75 thousandths, assuming everything fused together, which it didn't. We have certain bubbles where not all the layers melted into each other completely, but this is a proof of concept. As far as I'm concerned, the question of, is this worth developing further? I say yes. I think there's really something here. I haven't gone inside to do the math, but I'm going to put up on screen here how much this piece costs.
So I wanted to go over these prices with you personally instead of just throwing the numbers up on screen. So we're only comparing the cost of the polypropylene fabric to the epoxy resin that is traditionally used. We're ignoring the cost of fiberglass because that's going to be the same either way. I spent $4.40 on the plastic used in today's experiment. If I bought a larger batch of polypropylene, I would have spent $1.60 on today's experiment. With resin, the cost would have been $2. And then with a larger batch of resin, today's cost would have been $1.50. Now, the large batch of resin cost $242, while the large batch of polypropylene only cost $80. So there's a little bit of a smaller barrier to entry for getting the discount on the polypropylene compared to the resin. But without doing a lot more market research and shopping, it looks like the cost between the two materials is roughly the same. So the main benefit of continuing development on this process is going to be the convenience and added speed you get by not having to wait for resin to cure and being able to use the thermoplastic as soon as it cools off.
I think there's a lot of potential with this, and we learned a lot. I learned a little bit about mold making. You have to cure the plaster quite a bit more, make sure it's completely dry before you heat it up. And beyond that, the plastic sticks to the plaster and pulls it up, so you can't use that as the surface of the mold. So I'm thinking we might have to make the mold out of aluminum. But let me know what you guys think. You've got the information that I've attained from this process, and let me hear what your guys' ideas are for the mold process, the mold manufacturing process, what materials we should use, whether an integrated heater you think would be a good idea with plaster, if we should use silicone on top, if we should go with aluminum. All these things, let me know. So with that, I hope you enjoyed, and watch another video before you go.